In the shadow of the American wilderness, a sinister campaign unfolded over nearly 2 decades. A reclusive genius turned domestic terrorist, known as the Unabomber, waged a war against what he saw as the encroachment of technology and industrial society. This is the gripping tale of Ted Kaczynski, the man who crafted deadly bombs and a manifesto that would ignite a nationwide manhunt. Join us as we delve into the chilling narrative of one of the most extensive and challenging investigations in modern history, leading to the unmasking of the Unabomber and the profound impact of his actions on society and law enforcement.
In the tranquil town of Evergreen Park, Illinois, on May 22, 1942, Theodore John Kaczynski came into the world, oblivious to the tumultuous journey that lay ahead. The Kaczynski family, like many others in post-World War II America, sought the American dream. However, Ted's early years were marked by a series of events that would lay the foundation for his transformation into the Unabomber. Ted's childhood was far from typical. He displayed exceptional intelligence from an early age, showing a deep interest in mathematics and science. His IQ was measured at an astonishing 167, indicative of a prodigious mind. Yet, his intellectual gifts were often overshadowed by his social awkwardness and introverted nature. These early signs of a dichotomy within him, brilliance juxtaposed with social isolation, hinted at the inner turmoil that would come to define his life. In 1958, at the age of 16, Kaczynski entered Harvard University on a scholarship, a remarkable achievement for a young man from a modest background. It was at Harvard that he encountered the academic world's pressure and expectations, which would later be a source of great resentment for him. In this competitive environment, he excelled academically but struggled with the social aspects of college life. His isolation intensified during this period. After graduating from Harvard with a degree in mathematics, Kaczynski pursued a master's and later a PhD in mathematics at the University of Michigan. However, academia's bureaucracy and the demands of publishing research papers clashed with his desire for solitude and a simple life. His discomfort in these roles only grew over time. Following his academic pursuits, Kaczynski took a fateful turn that would set him on the path toward radicalization. In 1969, he moved to a remote cabin in the wilderness of Montana. This drastic decision marked the beginning of his isolation from society and the embrace of a back-to-nature lifestyle that he believed would free him from the trappings of industrialization and technological advancement. Kaczynski's time in the wilderness was marked by a rejection of modernity and a growing conviction that industrial society was causing irreparable harm to the environment and humanity as a whole. His handwritten journals during this period revealed a mind increasingly preoccupied with anti-technology and anti-establishment beliefs. As he isolated himself from society, Kaczynski began to craft his own philosophy, one that would eventually find its voice in his manifesto titled Industrial Society and Its Future. This document, published under the pseudonym FC, laid out his radical views and outlined a plan of action to combat what he saw as the existential threat of modern industrial society. This chapter delves into Ted Kaczynski's early life, his academic achievements, and the seeds of discontent that began to take root in his psyche. It explores the pivotal moments that would lead him down the path of becoming the Unabomber, from his formative years to his decision to retreat from society and embrace a radical ideology. The next chapter will delve into the Unabomber's manifesto and the ideology that drove his campaign of domestic terrorism. As Ted Kaczynski withdrew from society and embraced a life of isolation in his Montana cabin, his isolation was matched by a growing radicalization of thought. At the heart of his transformation was a manifesto, a document that would eventually gain notoriety as the Unabomber Manifesto. In it, Kaczynski crystallized his anti-technology beliefs and laid out his vision of a future where industrial society would crumble. The manifesto, titled Industrial Society and Its Future, was a sprawling and intellectually dense treatise that drew upon Kaczynski's deep knowledge of mathematics and his own philosophical musings. In it, he argued that industrialization, technological advancement, and the ever-increasing complexity of modern society were leading humanity down a dangerous path. He believed that technology had stripped individuals of their freedom and autonomy, making them slaves to a system that catered to the needs of the few at the expense of the many. Kaczynski's manifesto painted a grim picture of a future in which people were subjected to surveillance, mind control, and forced conformity, all perpetuated by an ever-encroaching technological and industrial complex. He saw the erosion of individuality, the destruction of the environment, and the enslavement of the masses as inevitable consequences of this relentless march toward progress. What set the manifesto apart from the ramblings of a madman was the sharpness of Kaczynski's intellect and his ability to articulate his grievances with a frightening, yet persuasive clarity. His ideas found resonance with a subset of people who shared his concerns about the impact of technology and industrialization on society. To add to the intrigue, Kaczynski adopted the pseudonym FC when submitting the manifesto to various publications. He demanded that his ideas be disseminated to the public, and he warned of dire consequences if his demands were not met. It was this manifesto that would become the Unabomber's calling card, a statement of intent and a window into the mind of a domestic terrorist. As the manifesto circulated, it drew the attention of law enforcement, academicians, and media outlets. In the chapters that follow, we will delve into how the Unabomber manifesto played a pivotal role in the investigation and eventual capture of Ted Kaczynski, as well as the societal impact of his ideas and the broader discourse around technology, industrialization, and the preservation of individual freedom. As the Unabomber's campaign of terror continued, the growing body of evidence and public awareness of his manifesto brought the case to the forefront of federal law enforcement agencies. The FBI would soon become the lead agency in the hunt for the Unabomber, and this chapter details their involvement and the challenges they faced. The FBI's involvement in the case marked a significant turning point. Prior to their direct involvement, local law enforcement agencies and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives (ATF) had been managing the investigation. However, as the Unabomber's activities escalated, it became clear that a more coordinated and specialized approach was needed. One of the immediate challenges facing the FBI was the Unabomber's ability to evade capture. Ted Kaczynski had proven himself to be a master of tradecraft, using various tactics to avoid leaving behind physical evidence or clues that could be traced back to him. This made the task of identifying and locating the Unabomber all the more daunting. The FBI assembled a team of experienced investigators and forensic experts to examine the case's existing evidence, including the numerous bomb fragments recovered from previous attacks. They also began to explore the linguistic clues contained in the Unabomber manifesto. These early efforts provided a glimpse of the thoroughness and precision that would be required to apprehend the elusive bomber. One of the FBI's initial strategies was to create an Unabomber task force, comprised of agents from multiple field offices, to centralize and streamline the investigation. This task force brought together some of the Bureau's best minds, pooling their resources and expertise in pursuit of the Unabomber. The Unabomber's elusive nature was compounded by his choice of victims and targets. He meticulously selected individuals and organizations related to technology and industrial society, using his bombs to send a message that struck at the heart of his anti-technology ideology. As a result, the Unabomber's actions generated widespread fear and mistrust, making the investigation both high stakes and high pressure. In the next chapter, we'll explore the Unabomber's victims and targets, shedding light on the individuals and organizations that became the focus of his attacks and the broader implications of his choices. We will delve into the impact of the Unabomber's actions on those directly affected and society at large. The Unabomber's choice of victims and targets played a pivotal role in both the impact of his attacks and the challenges faced by law enforcement. Understanding why he selected specific individuals and organizations sheds light on his motives and the broader consequences of his actions. Throughout his campaign, the Unabomber meticulously targeted individuals and institutions associated with technology, industrialization, and what he saw as the erosion of individual freedom. His rationale was rooted in a deep-seated belief that industrial society was corrupt, and those involved in its advancement were complicit in its ills. Many of the Unabomber's victims were professionals working in academia, science, and technology. His attacks were aimed at engineers, computer scientists, and those involved in research and development. By singling out these individuals, he intended to send a chilling message about the consequences of technological advancement and the perceived betrayal of these experts. One of his most high-profile victims was Dr. David Gelernter, a Yale University computer science professor. In 1993, Gelernter received a package containing a bomb that severely injured him. The Unabomber's message was clear: even the brightest minds were not safe from his campaign. The Unabomber also targeted airlines and corporate entities associated with modern industry. His attacks on American Airlines and United Airlines, along with several bombings at technology-related facilities, illustrated his broader anti-technology agenda. The bombings at airlines raised concerns about aviation safety and security, amplifying the impact of his actions. The choice of victims and targets generated widespread fear and suspicion. Professionals in technology-related fields became wary of their mail and packages, and institutions invested heavily in security measures. The Unabomber's actions had the intended effect of instilling paranoia and distrust in the very systems he sought to undermine. This chapter explores the lives of some of the Unabomber's victims, shedding light on the personal and professional consequences of his attacks. It also examines the broader impact of his choice of targets on technology, industry, and society's sense of security. In the following chapters, we will delve into the investigative efforts and forensic analysis that aimed to bring the Unabomber to justice and put an end to his reign of terror. The Unabomber's reign of terror had left a trail of devastation and fear in its wake, and it was clear that a coordinated and thorough investigation was needed to apprehend the elusive bomber. This chapter delves into the early stages of the Unabomber investigation, the challenges faced by law enforcement, and the first breakthroughs in the case. With the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, taking the lead in the investigation, a specialized Unabomber task force was established to centralize and coordinate efforts across multiple field offices. This marked a significant step forward in the pursuit of the Unabomber. One of the primary challenges faced by investigators was the Unabomber's ability to avoid leaving behind significant physical evidence. His devices were constructed with meticulous care to minimize traceable components. This made it exceedingly difficult to link the bombings to a specific individual. To make matters more complex, the Unabomber utilized a variety of tactics to mislead and frustrate investigators. For example, he used false return addresses and would travel extensively to mail packages from different locations, creating a misleading trail of evidence. These tactics were meant to divert law enforcement's attention and sow confusion. Despite these obstacles, the investigative team began to uncover a pattern in the Unabomber's targets and methods. The meticulous analysis of the bomb fragments and forensic evidence provided some crucial leads, albeit limited ones. The Unabomber's devices were often constructed with unique components and features that could be linked to specific attacks. Another critical development in the investigation was the analysis of the linguistic content in the Unabomber manifesto, Industrial Society and Its Future. Experts recognized distinct linguistic patterns and writing style in the manifesto, which would prove to be a valuable clue in identifying the author. As the investigation progressed, the FBI began to collaborate with experts in linguistics and forensic science to gain a better understanding of the Unabomber's communication style and potential clues hidden within his writings. This linguistic analysis would play a pivotal role in the eventual identification of Ted Kaczynski as the Unabomber. In the chapters to come, we will delve deeper into the forensic analysis and linguistic profiling that led to the breakthrough in the case. We will also explore the dramatic moment when Ted Kaczynski was finally apprehended and unmasked as the Unabomber, bringing an end to one of the most extensive manhunts in FBI history.